Everyone knows that Overwatch 2 is the worst thing that ever happened after Hitler, but if you're like me, then that means you got a golden era of Overwatch. You know, when people didn't know how to do this, when you could do this, or when Blizzard employees didn't use their female colleagues' breast milk to make their coffee. When the game first came out, it had an insane player base and it was literally on every corner of the internet. We had tons of content creators like XQC, Level Uplifting, and Salty Fish, and a seemingly amazing pro league that once made Overwatch the biggest esport event. Even for what was then considered a Team Fortress 2 ripoff, which if not exactly that, it was at least heavily inspired. Those are the developers' words, by the way, not mine. It completely shook the gaming scene as a whole. I mean, just look at this player chart. Even 4 years after launch, the game was still averaging about 15 million players per month. Not to mention the tens of millions of views that the animated shorts and character trailers were getting. But as we all know, unless you've been literally living under a rock, since its release, Overwatch has been progressively gutted by Blizzard with a combination of content stagnation, competitive balance issues, community concerns, increased competition, and let's just say broader company challenges. Knowing all this, I have analyzed and compared Overwatch 2 to its predecessor and its competition, weighing all of the pros and cons in order to lay out all of the facts and evidence with the purpose of deciding if Overwatch is even a shadow of its former self, almost a decade after its original release. First off, despite being the #1 competitive video game at one point, this game has just no esports scene whatsoever anymore. Each time I go to change my profile picture and see one of these, or when I just randomly remember that Pro League skins used to exist, I get one step closer to making my next therapy appointment. Unironically, every single last team disbanded. Opening Twitter felt like watching a massive wipeout happen right before me. But I mean, I'd be really surprised. Look man, I was never pro, but I wasn't exactly silver either. And I can tell you that this is fun for no one.
Just simply swap it away. Crucial time lost here for the Outlaws.
I am seriously convinced that the people in charge of balancing the game were too busy stealing breast milk to do their job. Either that or Sombra from the hit game Overwatch hacked into Blizzard's mainframe and restrained them from nerfing Zenyatta's ult for 5+ years. For a very good chunk of time, it was like Blizzard was completely blind and deaf to the cries for help of the community. And it sucks that Overwatch Pro League had to be the modern equivalent of the downfall of Rome. Yes, I know the company had some, let's say, internal disputes that needed to be solved, but that is just no excuse to just completely disappoint an extremely large part of your audience for a good couple of years. But before I get to my next point though, you are now blinking and breathing manually. Let's be honest now though, you don't necessarily need a professional esports scene in order for your game to be successful. What you do need though, even in a small indie company like Blizzard, is a gameplay designer that has finished kindergarten at least halfway through. Because there's just no way you can release a brainless character that no one likes and then a couple of months later repeat the same mistake all over again. I have friends that quit Overwatch literally just because of these two monstrosities, and I think the crash out is justified. I mean, why do you need to release an entirely different game just to open up Reddit, go on r/Overwatch, no not this one, the other r/Overwatch, and look at the first post? I mean, everyone digs Illari, Juno, and Kiriko. Okay, maybe a little too much on that last one. Overwatch did not have to literally go to video game hell in order for the team at Blizzard to give us just something that's not a rapidly expanding brain tumor. Yeah man, I'm just gonna go on the other r/Overwatch. However, if you were to play Overwatch now, you would most definitely have a much better experience than you did, let's say, at the end of Overwatch 1. The game-defining meta that was present then is still present in the current day, but dare I say, if you will lower your pitchforks, it is now very, very balanced. Clearly way more balanced than it used to be. However, this sadly gets kinda overshadowed by the fact that us, the community, were quite literally lied to with the promises that we were told at the start of Overwatch 2. Man, I'm gonna go insane. Now obviously, I'm not gonna start talking about how much of a disappointment that is. I think that's been covered at least as many times as the concurrent player base of Overwatch. But if you try to look past that, you're looking at a game that is not held together by sticks and sticky tape anymore. Believe me or not, I'm not getting paid to say this, but I think this game is going seriously strong in an era where first-person shooters are as good as dead. Sure, some champs are better than others, but like any modern AAA title, the meta is constantly shifting and changing, so that's just kind of irrelevant. Despite its reputation as the leading cause for first suicide in 2025 so far. Thanks to our amazing friends at Blizzard, I genuinely think that if you grab a friend or two on a Friday night and dust off that Overwatch icon on the bottom of your monitor, you're gonna forget that you haven't seen Squirrel Girl for more than 2 seconds on your screen. I'm not saying the game is flawless by any means though, seeing as Mora and Maga are still in the game, but if you don't trust me, then you can go look at pro players that say that the game's balancing system is at an all-time peak. Yes, a tank buster tank with lifesteal is inherently bad design, but he has been gutted and brought back to life, then gutted again and for a final time, brought to a state where it feels enjoyable to play as, with, and against. Even more than this, the things that players complained about the most, like goats or shields meta, are barely in the game anymore. And to add on to that, we also received extremely well designed and fun characters like Juno and some PvE content in the form of Ilari's turret. Even the 5v5 mode that has been a major complaint since the game's release is looked into by the developers, and a 6v6 mode is expected to maybe make a comeback as a different game mode most likely. But you'd be mistaken if you thought it was just another pointless idea made in a manic episode by the development team. Having the game be a 5v5 instead of a 6v6 drastically lowers queue times by directly addressing the fact that absolutely no one wanted to play tank. It's as simple as no one wants to play tank, queue times increase because of that, so we removed one tank slot from each team. There's no doubt in my mind that if the Overwatch esports scene launched now, it would be in a better state than it could have ever been back then when it was still ongoing. Besides balancing though, the game has never in its lifespan been more free-to-play friendly. Not only was the pay-to-win aspect completely deleted, but you can now obtain almost any skin from any season just by grinding a bit of points in the battle pass. To be 100% clear though, I am retarded. But not nearly enough so to think that getting loot boxes when leveling up was a bad idea. Rewarding your player for hitting a new milestone within a widely used level up system throughout many games garnered absolutely zero complaints from anyone. So why did they have to replace it with a battle pass system when they could have included both? Beats me, man. Believe it or not, this used to be way worse actually. New players had to progress to insane levels just to be able to unlock and play new characters. This of course made the game extremely pay to win and just as unfun for the team that had less 100 picks than the other. I remember when Ramatra first came out, so like at the very beginning of the game, and him being locked behind the paywall regardless of if you had an Overwatch 1 account or not. It was nothing less than a coin flip of what team is going to have this hero and who's gonna just plain out lose. Not only did it have way better pre-nerf stats back then, but people just didn't know how to play against him, seeing as he was the newest character in the game at the time. Also, it's really important to mention that just a couple of days ago actually, Overwatch introduced a new mechanic called Maximilian's Shop, which despite being a complete ripoff from League of Legends, it is a massive step in the right direction. This shop comes around once every other month if I'm not mistaken and gives you serious discounts for skins on the heroes you play the most. Is this better than loot boxes? Not at all, but it 100% shows that the Overwatch team genuinely wants the game to improve and that they are learning from their competitors with the purpose of making their game more enjoyable for the player base. But if I actually had to nitpick one single thing that I truly think went south with Overwatch, it would be their YouTube channel. We seriously went from having 3-minute fully animated shorts that were extremely well made and that catered exactly to what the players wanted, to lifeless, borderline cash grabby CGI animations that reflect the fact that more than half of the lore writers of Overwatch have been fired. Look, I'm not asking anyone to make Dragon Spire 2, but come on man, what is this? These shorts used to build up entire worlds for the setting of the original game. Their purpose was not only to build up the world of the game, but also to make the players attached to the characters they were playing. As someone who studies game design in college, I am aggressively taking notes of what they were doing back then and using them as inspiration for my own personal work. These animations no longer depict the character in a light that showcases their real nature, usually in a stressful situation, and quite frankly, I have no idea what they're trying to do. I was so utterly disappointed when I watched Junker Queen's trailer, man. A character that was being hyped up for so long deserved something way better than this power of friendship unserious BS. Like, I was seriously expecting Junker Queen to be like the next Sombra release. Remember that with the cryptic messages and the encrypted websites that we had to figure out as a community in order to unlock the character? Yeah, how long ago was that? You know what would really bring back those millions of players though? An animated series, much like Arcane. I mean, watching Arcane brought me back to playing League of Legends, and watching Cyberpunk Edgerunners made me want to play Cyberpunk. So why couldn't Blizzard hire an animating studio, release like a 1-hour movie, see how it goes, and go go from there. The game has a stupid amount of lore anyway that absolutely no one wants to read for themselves, so I don't see why they wouldn't do something like this. Who knows, maybe when Overwatch 3 comes out. So overall, if you are considering giving this game another shot, or if you were simply wondering how it's holding up at its senior age, I'd have to tell you that currently it is better than ever. After a long period of trial and error, I'd say Overwatch is in a fully playable and enjoyable state. Is it the best shooter on the market right now? Well, that's for you to decide, since that's just entirely subjective. However, me personally, I would strongly recommend this game to any one of my friends with no ifs or buts. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think this game can maintain its loyal player base, or is it doomed to slowly decline into irrelevance? Either way, thank you so much for watching. I sincerely would appreciate it if you considered liking and subscribing, as it motivates me immensely to keep making out-of-pocket edgy jokes that will get me cancelled sooner rather than later. Until next time, don't forget to do that math homework that you've been procrastinating by watching Overwatch videos on YouTube. Goodbye.